Good morning, everyone. And today we'll be talking about the pattern change towards the end of the month. So let's first take a look at the Climate Prediction Center's temperature and precipitation outlooks. Towards the end of the month, so start with our 6 to 10 day, we see that cold air begin to move into the United States, going west to east, which is also going to be one of our first fail modes that we're going to have to look at. And then by 8 to 14 outlook, it has reached the central US and eastern US. And what you will notice with this pattern is they're not going to be cold and dry. We're going to have ample moisture and constant amount of moisture, which is going to be very helpful in the promotion of storms, just not just in the southeast, but the entire US. So let's take a look at that. So let's take a look at our first driving factor. So let's figure out which MJO phase we're going to be in, because MJO is going to be one of the main drivers of this pattern change. Well, continuation of the pattern, what it feels like. Phase 8 is where we were recently. Like phase 8 is your primary, more ideal phase, best phase for the eastern US and southeastern. Phase 1 is okay. It's still pretty good. It's better than phases 3 through 6 and 7. But, still a nice phase. And phase 2 is still a good phase. So we're going to be in these optimal phases of MJO. So let's take a look at our MJO forecast. So the thing with MJO is that there's always going to be a delay between what's happening currently and what the MJO is. There's just going to be a few days delay. And we see we enter pretty strongly into MJO phase 1 and 2 before we depart around the 18th. Give or take a few days, we're going to be in good hands. And if we take a look at the European, we still see that it's not as strong with it, but we still stay in it for a good, decent amount of time. So let's take a look at what the ensemble members are showing. So when we take a look at the European ensemble, we see that this cold air that's coming through right now with a cold front kind of gets pushed out, and we get this giant ridge start to build over here. Kind of messed up by this low here, but we see this ridge go south central into the southeast. Very nice. We see that cold air kind of linger here, but then we start to see the beginning of our next cold air blast. This is going to be some very potent cold air. You see a positively tilted ridge here, trough, sorry. And you also see the ridge out over the Atlantic on the European ensemble. So the time frame is up here. I know you can't read that. So this is the 20th. Let me see if I can make that bigger for y'all. This is the 20th, and the 19th to 20th, like we see this cold air go west to east. This is really scary, as in we've seen air masses kind of get stuck right about here because there could be a ridge here. That's our fail mode primarily, is if there's a ridge in the east, or primarily just a southeast ridge that prevents the cold air from moving eastward. But because this ridge hasn't had much time to build and get its strength and kind of went over here, I don't see that as a huge fail mode, but it is something to watch. So see this cold air extend from Eastern California, Far Eastern California, all of the South Central U.S., the Four Corner states, the Plains, the Ohio Valley, like nearly like everywhere in the country except for the Seattle, Oregon, Idaho, just engulfed in this cold air. And you see that there's just this sliver of, neutral heights. So this neutral air, there's warm air here, cold air here, strong ridge out west. So this is where a lot of our storm systems are going to track. They're going to track along the boundary between the warm and cold air. Look at the GEFS ensembles, which has a further east ridge out here. Kind of brings it in more neutrally tilted trough. And yet again, you still see that boundary right about there, lining it up. So that's where storms may track. And it holds this cold air decently long. We see this cold air last, but we start to see the retraction as this pattern. The other teleconnections don't support long-lasting cold air. So we get a few good days before it starts to pull out. And we kind of get into this phase where modeling kind of gets weird. So from around the 18th to 23rd, that's a good week. So let's take a look at what the ensembles are showing precipitation-wise. So the GEFS actually backed off with no chances with the 60 run. And I don't buy that. We're still going to have a lot of moisture. It's just if I pull up a side by side, will it show what I need to show? You see how we have more moisture here than here. I don't really buy this solution, but let's just roll with it. So we see first, we're going to get a cross-country cutter that's going to bring severe weather to the deep south. That's what we're going to see first. This is going to be a huge severe weather event, potentially, as long as cold air damming doesn't find its way back into my life. And yeah, we're going to have a huge deep south outbreak starting in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, and maybe even South Carolina. But it starts to fall apart right once you get through Georgia. And we see that moisture kind of linger before moving out. So that was for the 17th to 18th through 19th. And maybe the Northeast might get their storm. We'll see. So after that moves out, you start to see there's moisture back in the Southeast where those colder temps aloft. This will be an overrunning event, your classic looking overrunning event, where people up north get their snow and people further south, they get ice and rain and not so fun stuff. And we see that kind of persist for a few days. Now, will it last a few days? No. But you kind of see that moisture, it kind of chills around and kind of stays there for a while. But that is our next storm mode. If you take a look at the EPS, the European ensembles, let's take a wider look on this so we can see our first system. It kind of doesn't really bring that same type of system. Kind of keeps us track further south. The severe weather risk is still probably present, but won't be as big of a concern. And this is a complete switch from what the EPS was showing just the other day. Like, it was showing a further north storm, but it kind of left that one out. It was showing more of a fail mode. So, we don't see that there. But then it keeps moisture in the south and brings us another overrunning event with more moisture. And this will probably be falling in the form of snow and sleet. So, I'm not going to say it's going to snow, but definitely the ingredients for such are present on modeling. So let's take a look at why am I talking about the teleconnections not being in our favor and not being the most ideal. When you look at the Pacific North American Oscillation, or PNA, for our time frame, it is neutral to slightly negative. Not the most optimal. You want it, up here, right? Up here. That's where you want to have it. We take a look at our NAO. This is also very key on keeping cold air in place, and that's how you see this kind of run away. It goes positive, and then it goes kind of neutral, a little bit negative along our primary time frame, before going sharply positive after. That's why you see that cold air just kind of run away. EPO, which has been a absolute massive problem last winter and the winter before that, for once is actually in favor of us, and looks like it's going to stay in favor for a long time. So we see it kind of bounce up and down, but by the time we get into our ideal time frame, negative. So this is going to prevent Pacific air from entrenching itself, mild, warm Pacific air, cross country like we saw last winter. And then the AO, another major concern, is that it's just not going to be weak enough. The AO is how strong those winds aloft are, the polar jet stream. You want it negative, not really neutral, because the stronger it gets, the higher the value goes. That means this air is gonna stay up there. It's not gonna send down the coldest, deepest air that we need. It also is another kind of teleconnection that kind of dips around this time frame. We're gonna have to watch these, because MJO is very powerful, but it is not going to be the only thing that will save you. Like, if AO was like, let's say at 2 degrees, like at 2, I would be extremely concerned. If the NAO was positive at all, I would be extremely concerned. And if the PNA was any more negative than this, I would be extremely concerned. So that's what we're looking at. Let's take a look at our snowfall chances. And let me zoom in on the southeast, because, that's where I live. And you see the European ensemble brings a decent chance of 1 inch of snowfall. Right. To a lot of people, but you also kind of see that kind of move north as storm track. The warmer air and the southeast ridge could be present here. So you get another 10 to 20, 20 to 30, maybe some 30 to 40% chance here or there. And look at the GEFS ensemble, which I'm going to roll it back around because I don't know why it's showing less moisture here, but you kind of get the look that it wants to show us. Went out to the entirety of the run, 20 to 30, much flatter storm track. But running back the run before, you also kind of see, hey, it's 20 to 30, 30 to 40 in parts of northern Alabama. But yet again, once you get, the further you get away from I-20, yikes. So yeah, that is almost all. Let me show you like what the primary storm track we are looking for our primary time frame, the 20th to 22nd. We kind of just see this low pressure system track right about here. We got this dominating high pressure system here, and our southeast ridge is present right here. So yeah, thanks for watching. That's it for everyone, and I hope this verifies so we can get another snowstorm, because that Atlanta storm was kind of infuriating if you lived in the Carolinas. Like, hey, where's our snow? Like, y'all just got ice, and I kind of feel bad, but we have another chance that we can all sit down. This isn't like years past where you missed the one big southeast storm. It was over. So this is something we got to watch. We also got to watch for a fail mode. And that's about it. Thank you for watching.